Assassin's Creed series has been entertaining us for the past 18 years. It's a huge franchise which consists of more than 14 mainline games. And with each game, we got a fan favorite protagonist. But here's the thing, the protagonists are a lot. And since each game brings a new character to the table, the fate of the previous one remains a mystery. Yes, there are a few exceptions, but this video focuses on every character's fate that has been introduced so far. And trust me, some of them will surprise you. In 2007, with the beginning of the Assassin's Creed series, we were introduced to Altair Ibn La Ahad. We all know how his story went, but after finally killing Al-Mualim, he took charge of the Levantine Brotherhood of Assassins only at the age of 26 and kept the Apple of Eden to himself. But Altair's life wasn't easy after this. Taking charge of the Brotherhood meant that you have to overcome a lot of challenges, especially when you have assassins like Abbas Sufyan by your side. He was one of those assassins who was against Altair's leadership. So he rose a rebellion against him and made all the other assassins believe that Altair has gone insane because of the apple's power. During this time, Altair even meets and marries a young Templar, Maria, and they both have two kids, Darim and Seth. He still hunted many Templars and accomplished many missions for the Brotherhood. But Abbas's plans continued. He was so insane that he even killed Altair's youngest son, Seth, just to make everyone believe that Altair's corruption was real, ultimately leading to a one-on-one confrontation between Altair and Abbas, where he demands the apple from him and even kills his wife Maria. Altair refuses and escapes Masyaf, ultimately being exiled for 20 years. During his exile, he studies the Apple of Eden and makes many groundbreaking inventions, including new assassination techniques, double hidden blades, and the hidden gun. And finally, after 20 years, he comes back to Masyaf, raises a rebellion against Abbas, and kills him. He starts leading the assassins again and protects them from the Mongol invasions. But ultimately, he knew that his time was coming soon, so he built an entire library beneath the Masyaf castle. And in order to open the library, he made 5 different keys which he spread across the world, and also sent his codex to Italy for safekeeping. After everything was done, he locked himself inside the library, placed the Apple of Eden on a pedestal, and died peacefully. After Altair comes Ezio Auditore. From his childhood to his adulthood, he kept on fighting Templars. But after AC revelations, he decides to leave the Brotherhood and live a simple life, where he settles in his villa in Monteriggioni and marries a woman that he met on his travels, Sofia, and fathers 2 children named Flavia and Marcello. He lives there for many years, but because of his old age suffers from many diseases as well, until one day he's met by a young assassin by the name of Shah Jun, who asks for his help to rebuild the Chinese Brotherhood. Ezio initially declines, but after a bit of persuasion, he agrees and teaches her his decades of experience fighting Templars. Once the young assassin leaves, Ezio and his family go to Florence, where he sits on a bench at the same place where his family was hanged. As he was sitting there, he was met upon by a young person and they both have a bit of conversation. But as that person leaves, Ezio suffers from a heart attack. Now, pausing the video here, there are 2 theories which I would like to share with you. Many people in the Assassin's Creed fandom believe that this young person was indeed a Templar agent sent to kill Ezio, because he suddenly became active with the Brotherhood, and because of that the Templars sent their young agent to poison him. The second one suggests that this wasn't any Templar agent nor any actual person, but was Ezio's imagination of his younger self. And after this confrontation, Ezio finds peace and dies. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Connor Kenway's life after Assassin's Creed 3 is not explicitly revealed in the games, and a common misconception is that his family abandoned him in his old age, leaving him to die all alone. But let me tell you, this is far from the truth. After killing Charles Lee and burying the key, Connor finds himself alone. He has no family, no tribe, and no mentor. But despite this, he devotes himself to rebuilding the homestead and the colonial brotherhood. And since Achilles is no more, he takes on the role of the mentor and fulfills this responsibility with dedication throughout his life. In time, he also marries a woman from a neighboring native tribe and has 3 children, a son and 2 daughters. While little is known about the 2 of them, one daughter in particular named Yoniode appears in the comic Assassin's Creed Reflections, where she's shown to inherit a unique ability known as the Gift, an enhanced perception or a modified form of eagle vision, and is quite similar to the eagle vision seen in Bayek, Kassandra, and Basim. But to summarize all of this, we can say that Connor did get the life that he deserved, a family, a legacy, and his place as a respected mentor. And talking about the rumors of his family leaving him are nothing more than Abstergo's manipulation into twisting history as propaganda. If we're talking about Connor, how can we forget about his father, Haytham Kenway? The son of an assassin turned Templar, his story is scattered across multiple games and novels, but I will try my best to piece it together in a simple way. After the prologue of Assassin's Creed 3, Haytham discovers that his own Grand Master Reginald Birch was responsible for killing his father Edward Kenway, and had even sold his sister into slavery. Determined to take revenge, Haytham travels to London, assassinates Birch, and assumes the mantle of the Grand Master of the British Templar Order. With his family business settled, he returns to America where he continues his escapade against the colonial assassins alongside Shay Cormac, who had recently defected from their ranks. Together, they systematically dismantle the Brotherhood in the colonies. Once this is accomplished, they set their sights on recovering the Precursor Box, a powerful First Civilization artifact once sought by the assassins. It's during this time that Haytham learns that he has a son, Connor, who chose the path of the assassins. And as shown in Assassin's Creed 3, the father and son briefly work together, with Haytham making every possible effort to persuade Connor to join him. But with both bound to rival causes, to be able to reconcile is impossible. Inevitably, their paths collide, and when the time comes to choose between family and the creed, Connor emerges victorious. And obviously Haytham dies, which was an unfortunate end to him. I know you're saying that I already mentioned Edward's death, but keep in mind this video isn't about how they died, it's about their stories after their respective games. I hope that clears things up. After leaving behind the life of piracy, Edward formally joined the assassins and recovered several precursor artifacts. Eventually, he chose to settle in London with his daughter Jennifer after learning of his wife's death. It is heavily implied that he donated the Jackdaw, his ship, to the British Brotherhood, though the ship would later be sunk by them, but that's a tale for another time. In London, Edward rose to become a wealthy and respected figure, as well as a high-ranking member of the British Brotherhood, hence supporting them financially and strategically. By the mid-1720s, he married a wealthy woman named Tessa Stevenson Oakley, and fathered 2 children, Haytham Kenway, who we all know very well, and another child who sadly died in infancy. Edward raised Haytham as a gentleman, teaching him fencing, discipline, and responsibility. However, Edward's prominence within the Brotherhood combined with his role in dismantling the West Indies Templar network made him a prime target of the British Templars. Their Grand Master, Reginald Birch, befriended Edward only to betray him. In 1735, he was successful and had him killed in his own mansion. But his treachery didn't stop there. He twisted Haytham's perception of his father, claiming Edward was a villain, and successfully inducted the boy into the Templar Order. A tragic and heartbreaking end for one of the most beloved protagonists in the series. I was going to skip these characters as well, but then I thought they're usually skipped by everyone. And I'm talking about Adewale from Assassin's Creed 4 and Aveline from Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation. Although both of these characters are from DLCs and their roles aren't that significant, but since we actually play as them, I will include them. Let's start with Adewale. Since we know that he also became a part of the Assassins alongside Edward, his story during that time is explained in the Freedom Cry DLC, where he's seen fighting against slavery. Even after the events of the DLC, he stayed in the Caribbean and continued his mission while staying affiliated with the Assassins. During this time, he formed a relationship with Bastien Joseph and unknowingly fathered a child. Years later, in 1751, after an earthquake devastated Port-au-Prince, Adewale reunited with Bastien and learned of his son, Babatunde Joseph. He then continued to serve as a leader in the Brotherhood, but in the year 1758, during the 7 Years' War, he was killed by Shay Cormac while trying to protect an artifact from the Templars. But you might be thinking, what about Aveline? Well, her later life is largely undocumented aside from a few missions in the Black Flag DLC. But all we know is that she remained active with the colonial assassins during Connor's war against the Templars. But her later years and death remain a mystery in the Assassin's Creed lore. I really hope that there was more of her, but that was all that I could find. Let's step away from the assassins for a moment and talk about the legendary assassin hunter himself, Shay Patrick Cormac. We all know how his story played out in Rogue, from assassin to their greatest foe after realizing their dangerous obsession with the First Civilization artifacts. In the game's epilogue, after assassinating Arno Dorian, Shay finally recovers the Precursor Box, and then he seemingly disappears into history. The games don't reveal much about him after that. Luckily for us, the Assassin's Creed Last Descendants comics gives us a glimpse of what happened next. Shay eventually started a family, fathering an unnamed son and later a grandson, who lived in the 19th century in New York. Both carried on Shay's legacy, becoming Templars and assassin hunters trained by Shay himself. However, the exact details of Shay's death remain unknown. But we do know for a fact that he died because of old age, which is one hell of an accomplishment for a guy like him. But the section's not over yet. There's also an intriguing though unofficial nod to his lineage in Assassin's Creed Odyssey's modern day sections, where in one of the sections of the game, Layla's friend casually mentions a great-grandfather who was an Irish sailor. And not only that, she even drops Shay's iconic line, "I make my own luck." So in the end, Shay's bloodline may have come full circle, finding its way back into the Assassins once again. But truth to be told, he was more assassin than the assassins of his time. In Assassin's Creed Unity, we met Arno Dorian, a charismatic yet tragic protagonist who lost nearly everything by the end of the game. But what became of him afterwards? The game's DLC gives us some answers, though there's also an unexpected detail that many fans overlook, and I will talk about it soon enough. In the Dead King's DLC, Arno seeks a safe passage out of France, but to earn it, he must complete one last mission, which is recovering a mysterious skull from the Basilica of Saint Denis. Along the way, he meets a young boy named Leon, who convinces him to help. Though his goal is initially to escape France, flashbacks of Elise and the influence of Leon change his mind, and in the end, Arno abandons the idea of leaving. Instead, he recovers the skull revealed to be a piece of Eden and sends it to the Egyptian assassins in Cairo for safekeeping. Now coming to the unexpected detail that I talked about earlier, many people believe that Arno remained single and never married. But this isn't entirely true. In the 2016 Assassin's Creed movie, which is canon by the way, it is revealed that Arno did find someone, hence continuing his bloodline, because in one scene of the movie, among the many ancestors of our main character, one of them is surprisingly Arno Dorian, confirming that he eventually lived a more peaceful life than the one we saw in Unity. I don't really have to go deep into this one since about 70% of the community already knows the fate of Jacob and Evie Frye. At the end of Syndicate, it's made clear that Evie accepts Henry Green's marriage proposal and moves to India with him, while Jacob remains in London to continue serving the Brotherhood. Their story is expanded later in Jack the Ripper DLC, where we learn that Jacob is captured by the Ripper and blinded in one eye. This prompts Evie to return to London to investigate his disappearance and ultimately kills Jack, rescuing her brother and restoring some sense of normalcy. But that's not the true end of their legacy. In a side mission set during World War I, we meet Lydia Frye, Jacob's granddaughter, who was trained by both Jacob and Evie. By this time, the twins had grown old and moved to the countryside, while Lydia remained in London to carry on the fight against the Templars. It's also heavily implied that Evie and Henry had children of their own, and that her descendants continued serving the Brotherhood in later generations. Together, the Frye bloodline ensured the assassin cause lived on well into the 20th century. Now regarding their death, the lore strongly hints that they lived their life to the fullest and passed away of old age. As compared to the other protagonists that I mentioned in the video, their life seems to be the most normal one out there. Now comes the interesting part, because we're about to talk about the very creator of the Assassins, Bayek of Siwa. Although his story is explained very clearly across Origins and its DLCs, that after forming the first generation of the Hidden Ones, Bayek continued to serve the cause and helped establish the tenets that would protect and immortalize their mission for centuries to come. But the most fascinating part, however, is that despite his crucial role, Bayek's true identity was never widely known. And that was by design. He never fought for glory or recognition, but for peace, justice, and the creed itself. But enough of this, what became of him in the end? The game quietly hints at this. Near Siwa, there's a cave you can visit where Bayek recalls playing with Aya as a child. He even remarks that if he ever had to choose a final resting place for both of them, it would be there. And in the modern day storyline, this is confirmed to be the very spot where Bayek and Aya eventually died. So the man who created the Brotherhood and set the foundation of the creed returned to Siwa, the place where it all began, for his eternal rest. Here comes one of the biggest sections of this video, just like the character's life that I'm about to talk. And I'm talking about Kassandra. After finally reuniting with her family, assuming that you chose the right options, she then seeks out her real father, who is revealed to be immortal after wielding the staff of Hermes Trismegistus, a powerful Isu artifact that halts aging entirely. He enlists Kassandra's help in retrieving artifacts by defeating mythical creatures, all in order to access the lost city of Atlantis. But once that's accomplished, his true intentions are revealed. He seeks to use this power to control humanity. As expected, father and daughter clash, and in the end, Kassandra defeats him, taking the staff for herself. With it, she inherits the responsibility of becoming the staff keeper, guided by the consciousness of Aletheia inside the staff. Kassandra learns that her destiny is to safeguard the staff until the day she must pass it to another person. To do this, she must first master its power, traveling through countless simulations and trials until she succeeds, and finally masters the staff. But this isn't her fate. The real conclusion to Odyssey came later in the form of a free DLC. In 2021, Ubisoft released a crossover between Odyssey and Valhalla. And to set up that, they made a separate DLC for Odyssey. But the crossover isn't the main focus here. Instead, the more important story is told in A Treasure Worth Dying For DLC. After mastering the staff, Kassandra takes a brief vacation on the island of Corfu, only for Barnabas and Herodotus to find her. They convince her to join them on a light-hearted treasure hunt, but it quickly becomes something far greater. The treasure turns out to be another apple of Eden, and the apple corrupts Barnabas and even drains the power of the spear of Leonidas, finally answering what became of it. In the end, Kassandra defeats Barnabas, separates him from the apple, and gifts the powerless spear to Herodotus as a memento, and continues her eternal duty as the staff keeper, which meant wandering the world, safeguarding powerful artifacts and knowledge, and even crossing paths with other Assassin's Creed protagonists like Eivor. And finally, her journey ends in 2018 when she meets Layla Hassan. After sharing her wisdom and explaining the burden she carried, Kassandra finally passes on the staff. With that, her long life, spanning thousands of years, comes to an end. Valhalla, being an enormous game, explores almost every aspect of Eivor's life, making it easier for us to piece together his journey. After defeating Basim and assuming leadership of the Raven clan, Eivor travels to Francia, modern-day France, to eliminate the threat posed by King Charles the Fat. Once the mission is complete, he returns home and encounters Basim's mentor, Roshan, who seeks his help in assassinating a target known as Al-Silah. Another member of the Order escaped from Baghdad. Eivor agrees, completes the mission, and then parts ways with her. Not long after, Eivor meets Kassandra. The two set out together in search of a piece of Eden, sharing stories of their adventure and philosophies along the way. Some months later, Eivor realizes he can no longer suppress Odin's memories within his mind. Left with no other choice, he learns to accept them. Knowing he has done everything possible for his clan, Eivor bids farewell to his friends and allies. During this time, both the Hidden Ones and the Templars invite him to join their respective causes, but he respectfully declines both offers and sets sail for Vinland. There, he spends his final days studying the Isu, their wisdom, their technology, and their understanding of the world. While the exact circumstances of his death remain unknown, my headcanon suggests that Eivor passed away peacefully, having lived a life full of purpose and honor. As Assassin's Creed Valhalla and Mirage are directly connected, with Valhalla essentially serving as more of a Basim-centered story, his life and motives are explored in great detail, further expanded through the novels, which makes understanding his journey much easier. In Mirage, after learning of his past life as a Norse Isu Loki, Basim becomes consumed by the desire for revenge against Odin, the one he blames for destroying his family and life. But since he just saved the Hidden Ones from collapse, he's sent to Constantinople alongside his young apprentice, Haytham, and their mission is to eliminate the Order's influence in the region. During this time there, Basim encounters a familiar face, Sigurd, and mistaking him for Odin, decides to gain his trust. He manipulates events to accompany Sigurd back to Norway, hoping to confirm his suspicions. Once there, Basim subtly pushes Sigurd to believe he is destined for greatness, unaware that Sigurd isn't the person he's searching for. Over time, Basim realizes the truth, that Eivor, not Sigurd, is the reincarnation of Odin, reborn in a female body to conceal her true identity. Eventually, when Eivor and Sigurd follow their visions to the Yggdrasil temple, they find Basim waiting. There, he reveals his true identity and intentions, but the confrontation turns against him. Eivor traps him inside the ancient machine, suspending him in a digital simulation known as the Grey. Angry and vengeful, yet cunning as ever, Basim formulates a new plan from within the Grey. Using some fragments of data, he contacts Layla Hassan, subtly guiding her to relive Eivor's memories under the guise of saving the world. Where later, it is revealed to us that the entire Staffkeeper thing was orchestrated by Alethea, who used Layla to bring about Basim's resurrection and fulfill their ancient plan. Now, with his plan finally complete, Basim lives once again in the modern day. Though he appears to be an ally to the assassins, his true motives are far more personal, and his ultimate goal is to free his son. Now, coming to the latest protagonists, Naoe and Yasuke. Unfortunately, since this game is the newest addition to the franchise and follows the large-scale RPG format with an expansive roadmap, we don't yet know how their stories will ultimately conclude. However, given Ubisoft's recent approach, especially since Valhalla, of fully exploring and completing their protagonist storyline, we can expect something similar for Naoe and Yasuke. But for now, all we have to do is wait. And this concludes our video. Let me know what are your thoughts on this, and I'll see you in the next one. Till then, goodbye.